Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. People have been talking here and there about when Hollywood uses actors that are non-white, and it can be the other way around, doesn't really matter, but often it's talked about in terms of non-white actors being put in roles where the historical figure wasn't in fact non-white. They're putting non-whites into historical figures that were white. Now, I think this would be problematic if it's a story where the ethnicity matters, right? It's part of understanding the story, and then it would be jarring and it wouldn't really make sense, because it's about, in some sense, the ethnicities, and to really experience a story, you can't have people of the wrong ethnicities, or at least perceptually so. It would cause a problem. But the cases that I've seen, and sometimes my wife is watching, and I'm going to pretend like I never enjoyed it, some of these women's love stories set in the 17th century, for example, and they're made by the BBC or whatever, and you'll find that they're now just throwing all kinds of ethnicities into the roles of the English folk of that era. And at first it's a little bit jarring, but the story has nothing. Even the Queen, for example, was of African descent, and at first it's a little jarring because you're not used to it. But the story is really just about love and the silliness of youth and the troubles that generation in England, the kinds of dukes and all that kind of stuff that you know about. And it has nothing to do, none of it's serious about any socio-political issues per se. It's a love story, right? It doesn't really matter. That's the first. So in those cases, it just doesn't matter. And sure, you may not be used to it to begin with, but you're going to get used to it like this. After a couple episodes, you don't even notice anymore. And of course, you never complained when it was, let's say, a Czechoslovakian actress playing the Queen of England, let's say, right? There's lots and lots of stock, ethnically different, genetically different stock that we call white. White isn't a thing, right? And black is even less of a thing. There's more ethnic diversity amongst black-skinned people, amongst Africans, than there is, across all humankind. White is not a thing. There's lots and lots of genetically distinct peoples that only share the fact that they've got lighter skin because they ended up with some of their later evolution and in sort of higher latitudes. And we're just not as good at perceptually distinguishing amongst them because there's not a really salient feature in the way that there is with skin color. And so we're all perfectly happy with Slavics, playing someone who's from Spain, or vice versa. None of us really care because we just don't notice the difference. Back in the day, when the white stocks of the world weren't intermingled as much as they are genetically today, it might have been that everybody noticed, well, that person's Czech. They can't possibly be playing Queen of England. But now no one really notices these things nearly as much because there's so much diversity. We're all used to it. There's much more intermingling of among us, and so the same is happening now for races that are non-white as well. And if you're interested in some of these sorts of issues on the perception of race and the perception of skin color and the perception of skin and color vision, take a look at one of my earlier books. It's my second book, Vision Revolution. It's a bestseller on many of my discoveries that are related to perception, why we see in color, why we see illusions, why your eyes face forward. The answers to those questions are not what you think they are. And that was your Science Moment.